Hello, I'm Dr. Ivo Warlop, one of the Gait guys. Thanks for tuning in and checking out this video Gait review. These videos are part of an educational series provided by a joint venture between the Homunculus Group and wannagetfast.com. In this series, we hope to help sharpen your gait analysis skills and increase your knowledge base about lower extremity biomechanics and their impact on athletic performance. Be sure to check out some of our other videos available by going to www.homunculusgroup, homunculus.com or www.wannagetfast.com or typing The Gait Guys into the YouTube search engine. Thanks again for watching. Now sit back and enjoy the show. Let's take a closer look at running stride evaluation. Running stride, much like walking stride, can be divided into a support or contact phase and a recovery phase. The support phase is very similar to contact phase during gait. It's when the lower extremity interacts with the ground, must pronate to accommodate for irregularities in the ground surface and shock absorption, and then supinate to provide push-off and toe-off. The recovery phase is the time when the extremity is in the air. Let's look at the right lower extremity here. The recovery phase lasts from the first instance when the toe leaves the ground until the heel or midfoot strikes the ground again. The contact phase or support phase consists of three parts. We have foot stance, which is very similar to the weight acceptance phase of gait. We have mid support, very similar to mid stance during gait. And we have the toe off phase, which is very similar to the terminal stance and pre-swing phases of gait. At foot stance, when the foot is hitting the ground, the foot must go through pronation or shock absorption. This will occur with pronation occurring at the rear foot and midfoot, some dorsiflexion occurring at the ankle, flexion occurring at the knee, as well as some flexion occurring at the hip. Mid-support is the pivotal phase when we go from pronation to supination. So we go from a phase of the foot being a mobile adapter to the foot being a rigid lever so that we can push off during the final phase, which is toe off. We need to consider the attitude of the foot when it hits the ground. There are two axes of the foot that we're concerned with. The transverse axis of the foot going across the foot from the first and second metatarsal, and the oblique axis which runs from the second through the fifth metatarsals. We want to toe off during the transverse or from the transverse axis of the foot. This descends the first ray, has the foot become a more rigid lever, and allows us to push off more efficiently. If we toe off from the oblique axis of the foot because of a forefoot varus or a forefoot valgus, in other words, the foot is inverted or everted on its axis, this is much less efficient, and the foot cannot be fully supinated, so therefore is not a very good lever for pushing off. The recovery phase is very similar to swing phase of gait. It's going to consist of three parts. Let's watch the right lower extremity. Follow through, where the extremity is coming up. Forward swing, which is similar to mid swing. And then foot descent. During follow through, the lower extremity is being accelerated. This should largely stem from action of the glutes, not the quads or hip flexors. Forward swing is in neutral phase, where the extremity should be flowing through. Very little muscular activity is occurring here. The foot descent is the final phase as the lower extremity is decelerating. The deceleration again should be occurring from eccentric contraction of the glute muscles, not the lumbar erectors or hamstring muscles. When we're looking at gait, let's think about what happens when the foot contacts the ground and what happens when the foot's in the air. When the foot's contacting the ground, where is the strike? Are they striking on the heel? Are they striking on the midfoot? Are they striking on the forefoot? And what's the position of the foot? Is it dorsiflexed? Is it plantar flexed? Is it inverted? Is it everted? Is it pronated? Is it supinated? What's the position of the ankle? Is it neutral? Is it dorsiflexed or plantar flexed like we're seeing here? What's the position of the knee? Is there a little flexion? Is there a lot of flexion? Is there no flexion and is it an extension? What's the position of the hip at this point in time when we're hitting the ground? Is the hip in flexion? Is it neutral or is it an extension? What's the position of the pelvis when this is occurring? In other words, is the pelvis rotated forward? Is the pelvis rotated backward? And what's the attitude of the lower back? And finally, what's the position of the trunk? During normal contact, we should see a straight line, not like we're seeing here, from the contact foot up through the knee, through the hip, through the torso, and through the shoulder. So we should see one straight line as we're contacting down. When we're thinking about the recovery phase or the swing phase, what's happening when that limb is being accelerated? Are they using ancillary motion of the extremities to try to promote acceleration? Are they using flexion at the waist to try to promote acceleration? At forward swing, where it should be relatively neutral, in the middle portion of swing, is there muscular activity going on? Can we see prominence of musculature on either extremity? And during foot descent, which muscles are they using to decelerate? And what's the overall position and angulation of the body? Let's take this information and apply it to a case. Let's watch this runner first at normal speed. And now at half speed. Let's take both views now and break them down. Let's look at our runner here and pay attention to what's happening during the support or contact phase. In other words, what's happening at foot stance when the foot first hits the ground, mid-support, the middle of the time when his foot is on the ground, and toe-off or the propulsion phase. In this area right here, look at the strike of his left lower extremity. You can see how his foot is inverting or turning inward, and it's also spun somewhat to the outside. The next view here demonstrates that. We can see that the lateral side of his foot is in contact with the ground, and the foot is abducted or twisted away from midline. The other significant thing we can notice is the position of the ankle being in slight plantar flexion, which is probably a good thing in this particular case. Slight flexion